Good day world! I am Lance Manuel and this is the TCWD3 News Program, where we give the freshest and boldest news. For today's news, we have what is sustainable development? What are the 17 sustainable development goals? The sustainable economic system, and the difference between stability and sustainability.
Greetings! I'm Neil Scott Santos and I'll be the co-author of Mr. Manuel. Our first discussion: what is sustainable development and its 17 different goals? Here's Jamison Gaddett reporting.
Yes, Scott. A guiding principle in sustainable development is maintaining the capacity of natural systems to continue providing the natural resources and ecosystem services that are essential to the economy and society. A state of society where living circumstances and resources are used to meet human needs while maintaining the integrity, stability of the natural system is the desired outcome. As the idea of sustainable development evolved, it shifted its emphasis more toward the protection of the environment for future generations as well as the economic and social progress of society. The Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015, and they were ordered to achieve sustainable development on a global scale. 17 goals addresses challenges including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. They also serve as the shared plan for a future that is more peaceful, economical, and sustainable for all.
You mentioned the 17 goals provided by the United Nations. Can you name them all and tell us more about those?
The 17 sustainable goals are: first, the end of poverty, end hunger, well-being, quality education, gender equality, water and sanitation for all, affordable and sustainable energy, decent work for all, technology to benefit all, reduce inequality, safe cities and communities, responsible consumption by all, stop climate change, protect the ocean, take care of the earth, live in peace and mechanism. These 17 sustainable development goals were established by the United Nations with a target to complete them by 2030. The goal of sustainable development is to consistently advance social economic conditions without depleting the planet's limited natural resources, so that our future generation can leave behind healthier and more environmentally friendly Earth. We must collectively devise solutions to address these needs.
That was an astonishing explanation. Thank you, Jemerson. And now we are going to ask our next field reporter, Benedict Lee, questions about the 17 sustainable goals. Hello, Benedict. As we discuss this, we encounter 5 important questions that we need to answer ourselves. We're going to have different opinions and answers to these questions. But we should keep in mind that we all want the same thing, and that is a peaceful and sustainable environment. For the first question, Benedict, may I ask, from the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which do you think is the most achievable? Why do you say so?
Honestly speaking, and according to the statistics, the most achievable goal out of the SDGs is Goal 14. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marines and resources for sustainable development. This goal by far has the most action taken of the 17. The greatest ecosystem on the globe and the billions of people whose livelihoods depend are in peril due to growing eutrophication, acidification, and plastic pollution in the world's oceans and seas. Due to the growth in single-use plastics, mostly from medical waste, an estimated of 25,000 tons of plastic trash have steadily infiltrated the world's oceans. But with more and more people noticing our plea to save the turtles, we see a dip in the use of plastics, although we have conditions where we have to use our single-use plastics to current will turn around will greatly help our situation.
Interesting answer. For a follow-up question, which is the least achievable? Could you please elucidate reasons as to why?
I will take into consideration our current statistics to answer this question. The least achievable goal will currently be Goal 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. Discrimination and inequality has been seen rampage before the pandemic. And although we see more acceptance from the masses because of the Gen Z movements, we still see disparities. Global economic inequality has worsened as a result of the COVID-19 crisis, partially reversing the reduction of the previous 2 decades. It is anticipated that weak recoveries in emerging markets and developing countries will increase inter-country disparity. The total of numbers of refugees worldwide in 2021 was the greatest ever. One of the biggest refugee crises in modern history is being brought on by the fighting in Ukraine. More than 3/5 of the nations with data experience stronger growth in household spending or income per capita among the lower 40% of the population than the national average prior to the COVID-19 epidemic. This tendency is in danger of being reversed by the epidemic. In numerous nations in 2020, growth among the bottom 40% declined by among bigger and those observed nationwide.
Which do you think the citizens around the globe should address with urgency? Why?
I will answer this question as a current concerned citizen of the globe. I call to the attention of the people of the earth. Please focus on Goal 13. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. I'm sure we can all feel the climate change related increases in heat waves, droughts, and floods that are ruining the earth and impacting billions of people globally. Despite a brief of decline of CO2 emission in 2020, the demand for coal, oil, and gas increases in 2021 as the economy recovered. As a result, worldwide energy-related CO2 emissions increased by 6.0%. Global emissions are expected to rise by about 14% over the next 10 years, based on current national promises, which will result in a climate disaster unless government, the corporate sector, and civil society come together and take prompt action. However, the flick of Ukraine raises the possibility of significant setback for coordinated efforts to accelerate climate action. Climate change does not only affect us but also our habitats and animals. Have mercy and compassion for our brothers and sisters who can't afford a roof over their heads and food to their families. Don't look away from our animals who died and starved due to their habitats dissipating. It's time to help each other.
I agree, Mr. Lee. For our audience, as an ordinary citizen, what can they do to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals?
As ordinary citizen, we're a core component in accomplishing the SDGs. This is our home, and we can do everything to save it. If we just let go of our greed, ego, and villainy, we can start by living by means that will sustain us, not only means that will pressure and overstimulate us. If we look intently at the state of the earth, we can understand why we can afford surplus lifestyles. Our own greed and selfishness will lead us to our doom. Ironic how we advance this earth as it is now. We can also kill it off with the same actions. Look around. The waters that surround us freely in the past reeks of the poison that we made through our own ignorance. Trees and grass are replaced by trash and decaying flesh of blood. Instead of fixing what we broke, we still choose to find someone to blame. Here are 5 easy ways to help achieve the SDGs by moving worlds, which includes educate oneself, change your mentality, inform others, see the world and travel with purpose, and lastly, live responsibly.
What should we do as citizens of the world collectively do to fulfill the goals for sustainable development?
We should collectively look at this earth like we owe it our lives. We shouldn't take it for granted, as we shouldn't let our human ideals and wants to destroy it. You can participate in all facets of sustainable developments as a citizen. If you have a skill and talent, you may provide support. You can assist in identifying local species or track the trends of species population. If you have appropriate knowledge of species and biodiversity, you can assist in identifying local species or track the trends of the species population. If you have appropriate knowledge about species and biodiversity, if you are skilled at identifying issues, you have the ability to recognize the disclosed problems in your life. What would you do to encourage sustainable growth if you were walking down a river but the river was polluted by the freshly built factories nearby? If you have a creative and bright mind, you could offer the suggestions and answer to the general population is a resource that can present practical answers based on experience. For instance, you might discuss a proposal to introduce ecotourism in a national park in your neighboring villages, those that the decision makers would overlook. It is crucial to have a plan with more sensible and ethical techniques. If you want to preserve sustainability on both on economic and environmental level, if you are active, you are good to get involved in a volunteer work or the actual project implementation process. Participating a community garden project or a trash collection volunteer event to spend the day scrubbing lakes will also help our neighborhood become more sustainable.
Thank you, Benedict. For our next discussion, we will tackle the sustainable economic system. But before that, we are going to take a short break.
Human immunodeficiency virus, also known as HIV, is a virus that attacks the body's immune system, and it does not spread from human residues. Then how do people get it? It can be transmitted by having sexual intercourse, through sharing needles, by injecting drugs or tattooing, or just by getting stuck with a needle with the infected person's blood on it. If HIV is not treated, it could lead to acquired immunodeficiency syndrome or AIDS. Hence, serious infections and health issues are common among AIDS patients. There is currently no effective cure, and once people get HIV or AIDS, they have it for life. But with proper medical care, HIV can be controlled. And understanding how HIV spreads can help you make safer choices. And don't forget to talk to your doctor if you have any questions about HIV and AIDS and if you want to get tested. On December 1, 2022, join us as we hold the World AIDS Day together. We will fight this battle. You are not alone.
Good day again, world. Going back to the program. Here's our Jesse Bocachor to discuss the sustainable economic system.
Leon Scott, it was widely believed that throughout the first decade of the 21st century, the global economy turned into an area of great danger and uncertainty. You may remember that the dimension of crisis started in 2007. It wasn't like a different downturn in the business cycle. It was a serious collapse that called into question the fundamental tenets of contemporary welfare creation theories. A few signs of the global crisis included collapsing financial markets, rising unemployment, widening disparities, and declining middle class, excessive debt, and government failure to impose changes. In addition, issues with climate change and scarcity of resources necessary for the creation of the technologies that support economic growth have persisted.
Alright, can you tell us about what economic stability is?
Leon Scott, economic stability indicates that people have access to the things they need for a healthy existence: affordable housing, wage that pays a decent salary, factors that promote employment including workers' protection, paid sick leave, and childcare, and accessibility to dependable transportation are all factors that affect economic stability. Firmness and position, permanence, and resistance to change, the word associated with stability. Excessive highs and lows should be avoided, like higher inflation and lower unemployment.
Could you tell us about the instances where there was a correlation between these extreme highs and lows under stability?
Yes, Leon Scott, after several years of post-war prosperity and overproduction, the Great Depression began in 1929 and resulted in the devastating collapse of the economy. After 4 decades in 1970, the world crisis opened the door to fresh perspective of the economy, leading to a development of monetarism, which regulates the quantity of money produced and circulate, and based on the principle of stability, which is smart move for the economy.
Are there other crises besides the Great Depression?
Leon Scott, the worldwide economy crashed in 1990s, the collapse of currency exchange rate and the implosion of hot money bubble during the Asian financial crisis of 1997 were the reasons for the Thai baht's sharp decline in the value. Next is Russian crisis that took place in the first decade of the country's change from a communist to a free market economy. Argentina had a catastrophe as a result of 1999 to 2003 economic crisis, which saw a steep decline in GDP and a huge rise in unemployment and poverty. Trust in politicians and political institutions was already at an all-time low in Argentina in 1999.
In terms of resource productivity, the equation for sustainability and stability is the same. But in the context of world development, sustainability refers to long-term stability. These two elements also have an impact on sustainable development. The definition of sustainable development, in its broadest definition, refers to actions taken in the field to address present development requirements while preserving the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
Thank you, Art and Leon Scott. For our next flash report, what is economic sustainability? Here is Roland Marcos reporting.
Lance, economic sustainability refers to actions that promote long-term economic growth without having a negative effect on the community's social, environmental, and cultural bases. Sustainability is the capacity of support or maintain a process throughout the time. The goal of sustainability is, in business and politics, is to keep physical or natural resources from running out so they can continue to be used continuously. According to Brundtland's 1997 report from the World Commission on Environment and Development, sustainable development is defined as meeting current demands without compromising the capacity of future generations to satisfy their own requirements. Speaking of the future, generations, the sustainability conundrum can now be easily solved thanks to current technologies.
You mentioned the word technology. Can you further explain the connection between technology and sustainability?
The neoclassical growth theory, developed in 1956 by Robert Solow and Trevor Swan, contends that technological advancement has a significant impact on economies and that economic development cannot be sustained in an absence of such changes. The theory explains how the interactions of three forces, labor, capital, and technology, leads to a constant rate of economic growth. The Solow-Swan model is the sole opportunity to innovation that assumes the continuous production functions linking out to labor and to capital input, and resulting in steady state of equilibrium for the economy.
Roland, is there any other theory about sustainability?
Yes, Lance, it is called the New Growth Theory, theorized by Paul Romer and Robert Lucas, which arose in the 1980s. The population desires and needs will continue to fuel economic growth and productivity. Human capital and education were acknowledged as essential endogenous factors for growth, and their application was free from the stable state of conventional resources. In a book he produced, Garrett Hardin indicated that early industrial capitalism social conditions in the 19th century were primarily taken into consideration when discussing sustainability. Environmental concerns dominated discussions on sustainability in modern times.
What is this book that you mentioned? And can you tell us more about it?
This book is called Tragedy of Commons, written in the year 1968. It analyzes how public goods got exhausted by actors in a free market economy. The relationship between economics, expansion, and resources scarcity is discussed in The Limits to Growth, another book from the Club of Rome that was published in 1972. Growing international cooperation was a result of the sustainability issue with regard to environmental issues and resources.
The difficulty of sustainable development is figuring out how to improve well-being while making sensible use of natural resources. The requirement to reorganize the fundamentals of property management system in rural areas should be considered in development policies. The redesign focuses more on integrating into many purposes, specifically the economy and the environment or the ecosystem. Even though managing the agricultural system is complex, success can be recognized and influenced by indicators like support for a sustainable local environment, making an effort to utilize natural resources for sustainability, contribution to the growth of employment, support for a macroeconomic sustainability. Additionally, they support technical independence.
Thank you for the information, Mr. Marcos and Mr. Manuel. I, for one, will look into our global issues and what I can do about it to be a part of the change. That's it for today's segment of the TCWD News Program. It serves you with real and biased news. We are your news anchor, Scott Santos.
And Lance Carl Manuel, thank you Pilipinas, and thank you world.